All right, guys. Welcome back to our first episode of the Brotherhood Ballad back together, Justin and I together. Last night, Justin was kind enough to let me do my own piece on UFC and just hit on other couple topics. That'll be up on the YouTube later, but I'm excited to be back with my fellow brother here today, Justin.
So, good to be back.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We always love producing for you guys. This episode today specifically is just mainly going to be going over the current NFL draft. We're going to look at some of the mock drafts that are out there right now, just kind of talk about how we feel about certain picks and which players are going to what teams, things like that. Maybe give very early predictions on some teams that we support and things like that. We also might, at the end of the show today, touch a little bit on Selection Sunday for March Madness, given that that is just around the corner. So, Justin, if you want to kick it away and just kind of, go over what you have.
So, first I was thinking we could go over kind of our favorite prospects in this upcoming draft. Or we can also, go over prospects at each position and kind of where we think they stack up against each other. So first off, I think it's only right to look at the quarterbacks in this draft.
Yep.
And as you guys know, if you study this or have studied this draft a little bit, it's not one of the stronger quarterback classes in recent years.
Not really, no.
Obviously, we have Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, to name the first, the top three pretty much.
Yep.
And then we have some other candidates, like some dark horse candidates like Will Howard, we've heard. Dylan Gabriel's in this draft. What do you think about the top three and some of the sleepers?
Yeah, definitely. So with the top three, like Justin had said, I think personally, although Tennessee right now obviously has Will Levis, but Will Levis had one of the worst QBRs out of any starting quarterback last year. He also ended the season with 21 interceptions. I think Tennessee should be in the market to replace Mayo Man, and Cam Ward is just the guy for that. Cam Ward, had a great season at Miami. He really showed his versatility as a quarterback. His pocket presence is nice. He's got a really good arm. He's got good speed and quickness when he's trying to escape the pocket as well. If you give, Cam Ward some good time in the pocket, he can definitely hit those wide receivers that are open. Try to get Cam Ward at that number one pick for Tennessee. Maybe get a couple better O-linemen around him, give him a chance to succeed. Because what you don't want to happen is what happened with Bryce Young in Carolina, where Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers had a horrible offensive line and made him look even worse than he already is. Like, Bryce Young is a very talented quarterback, but Carolina, just made him look horrible. And then they ended up benching him and then, having him come back later in the season, which is not good for a developing quarterback. And to kind of tie that in, it's almost like how the Packers do it. Like, they draft and then they let their quarterback sit behind a legend. That's what they did with Aaron Rodgers. It's what they did with Jordan Love. If you can do that in any NFL franchise is what you should be doing, because putting a rookie in right away in day one is not a good idea, as we've seen from previous quarterbacks. But yeah, I think Cam Ward should definitely go 1 to Tennessee. I believe that with that second overall pick that the Browns have, from what I've been seeing, it's probably going to be Travis Hunter. But I mean, we'll move on from that because that's not really a quarterback pick. But Shedeur Sanders is probably going to go 3 to Detroit or to New York. Sorry, after New York sent away Daniel Jones to the Vikings and had Drew Lock come in as a free agent. Or sorry, he finished off the rest of the season, and now as a free agent, the Giants are looking to pick up Shedeur Sanders. Now, I've told Justin that I'm not really the biggest fan of Shedeur Sanders. I don't really think he's that good of a quarterback. He's not a franchise leader. I'd honestly say that Daniel Jones has a better chance of becoming a franchise quarterback than Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. Some people might think that's a hot take. Justin, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got a bunch of hype coming out of Colorado. Obviously, I mean, Deion, he's got to deserve some credit for turning around that program.
Definitely agree.
But that doesn't necessarily contribute to his son's success at the quarterback level in the NFL. It's a completely different ball game. College was one thing, and now a lot of the success of quarterbacks like you were talking about with Bryce Young, is situation and where they end up. Because I could see Cam Ward having a lot of success in Tennessee and Shador having not a lot of success in New York.
Yeah.
And that just being solely on where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of it's situation, but a lot of it's also just mental capability. Because, I mean, you can have the best arm, but if you aren't able to lead, or if you're not able to be mentally strong to win down the stretch, like, I mean, even looking at some of the best quarterbacks, they might not have the best arm.
Yeah.
Or they might not be the most accurate at, I mean, accuracy is a little more, a little more in depth, and it just depends. It varies from prospect to prospect. But I would say that I do like Cam Ward better than Shador, and Jackson Dart is a very interesting prospect in this draft. I like Tyler Shuck. He went to my high school.
Yep.
Shout out to him out of Louisville. Gabriel, I mean, he's shown some flashes of accuracy. Obviously, his key ball passing has been in question.
Murdered by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl.
But Shador, I mean, I'm not really a big Colorado guy, and I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, time will tell, but I'm not really a big fan of him, so I don't think he has the capabilities to be a All-Pro. Or
I don't either.
I mean, maybe a starter for a couple of years, but I don't think he's going to do anything with, especially if he's on a team with a situation that's bad. He's just going to complain about it like he complained about his O-line.
Yeah.
At Colorado.
I know. And I don't even think that Shador was, like, in the Big 12, I don't even know if he was the top 4 quarterback in the Big 12.
Big 12. Avery Johnson was good.
Rocco Beck was good.
Rocco Beck.
Led Iowa State to their highest winning season.
Sam Levitt at ASU.
Yeah. Even though
Fafita
had an off year, Fafita, I mean...
He's talented.
He's really talented. I don't know. I don't see the hype. I really only see the hype behind Shador Sanders because of his last name. And I guess we'll see. We will see what New York decides to do. We have all seen that video on Instagram of the the Giants GM son accurately predicting the Giants should have drafted Jaden Daniels, and look what Jaden Daniels did. Took the Commanders to the NFC Championship, in his sophomore year. So, I mean, the Giants are notorious fumblers in terms of draft picks. I don't think Shador Sanders should be their pick. I'm actually a big fan of Jackson Dart. I've been telling Justin this outside of the podcast that I think Jackson Dart has the ability to be the best quarterback out of this class. A lot of the NFL scouts love what they've been seeing out of Jackson Dart. He's a really accurate quarterback. His pocket presence is outstanding. Overall, like, Jackson Dart is just a sound quarterback. I think under that Lane Kiffin coaching tree and that offensive coordinator that they have down at Ole Miss, I just think Jackson Dart really has a chance to be a dark horse out of this quarterback class. And I think the Giants should be looking heavily at Jackson Dart, or they should let their son pick who they want on Instagram, and maybe they'll make the NFC Championship next year.
No, I've liked him at Ole Miss. I've liked watching him the last couple of years under Lane Kiffin. He's got the talent, and scouts are starting to see it because the success that he's brought to Ole Miss, because winning 10 wins at Ole Miss had never happened before him, I don't think. So, I mean, if he's able to do it there, I think he'll be able to do it. I think flying under the radar behind Cam Ward and Shador could be exactly what Jackson Dart needs for success, because as you see, like, getting drafted early on in the first round, it can be a disaster just based on the situation you go to. But if Dart ends up behind one of the great quarterbacks for a couple of years and gets to learn behind him for a bit, and then we'll have some time to shine in a couple of years, then I think that might be best for him. But also, I think he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Off the jump. He doesn't need any really time to develop. I mean, he is still a little bit raw, but I mean, he's had a lot of time in college to get some reps under his belt, so he's not like a Mitchell Trubisky or somebody that's only had a year or so starting. He's started multiple years for Ole Miss, so.
Yeah, I agree. Also, another guy that is in this draft that has definitely some NFL potential, I think, is Jalen Milroe. I think right now Jalen Milroe is probably, what would you say, late first round, maybe early second round pick?
I'd say second or third round, yeah.
Yeah, because Jalen Milroe obviously, didn't have. I mean, compared to previous Alabama seasons, obviously being under Kalen DeBoer the later half of his time at Alabama, um, probably messed with his mind a little bit, and it just after so much years of success under the Nick Saban era and reign, it's probably was tough. I get it. He's not the best Alabama quarterback we've seen, but he's better than like Mac Jones was at Alabama, better than Tua was at Alabama. I know they didn't win a natty. They don't really have anything to show for it, but I think Jalen Milroe can fit into like, based off of how he performed at Alabama. I think he could be like a good quarterback for a team that's kind of like Denver, even Arizona. I know they have Bo Nix and Kyler Murray, but he could even fit in well in Las Vegas. But that's kind of a death wish going to Las Vegas. Anyways, I think Jalen Milroe is definitely another dark horse for this draft.
Yeah. In terms of the first round, I think there will only be 2 quarterbacks selected, Ward and Sanders, maybe 3. I don't think there will be more than that. I think this draft especially, I think, is stacked in terms of linemen and
very
defensive players. I think it's going to be a bunch of each of those. Obviously, you'll see a little bit of Tyler Warren sprinkled in with the tight end Colston Loveland. Yeah. We'll see a couple skill positions, running back, receivers. Speaking of skill positions, if you don't have any more thoughts on the quarterback, I say we look at the running back position, one of the more stacked positions, I think, in this draft. I think there has a chance to be, I believe the record in the draft for running backs selected is, I would say, 20. Can you look that up, what the record is?
Yep.
I believe it's the most running back selected, maybe, I think it might be a 28, but I could be, I don't know, we'll find out shortly. But in terms of this draft class, Ashton Jeanty, Heisman runner-up out of Boise State, he is a stud. I mean, wherever he goes, he's going to be a workhorse. I think he could easily be in the league for 10 years if he doesn't obviously have an injury. Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, I've seen some of his tape. He's a just consistent back that consistently gets 4 or 5 yards and then is able to break away a couple times, but he's just a consistent workhorse, and he was a very steady running back for the Tar Heels this past season. Caden Johnson out of Iowa. 23. I could see it get close this year. I could see 20 running backs taken, 15 to 20. Both of the Iowa State running backs, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Junkins, they are studs. I mean, as we saw all season with them. Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State, R.J. Harvey, Central Florida, Trevor Etienne, Travis's brother, Damian Martinez out of Oregon State, Ollie Gordon. He was going to be a higher pick if he was able to come out after last season, but this past season, or 2 seasons ago, but this past season with Oklahoma State, they much like Arizona, had a very disappointing year in the Big 12. I think that's how it's going to happen a lot with just the spreading out of talent in terms of NIL and the transfer portal. I think we'll see a lot of things like that happen in college. You guys will have to let us know if you want an episode on NIL and the transfer portal and the conference realignment and how we think that's affecting college football. But
or we could just do it because I'll rant.
Or yeah, we can do that. We can have that next up. But did you have any thoughts on this running back class for 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as well versed in the running back class this year. I know that you've spent a little bit more time on the running backs, but I would say, Etienne is going to be a solid pick. I just don't know how many are going to go in the first round. Like, obviously, Jeanty's going to go in the first round, but I think latest, draft boards have one running back going in the first round, and that being Jeanty.
Yeah. I could see a bunch going like 3 and 4.
I think if we, like Justin is saying here, if we see a lot of those running backs picked up this year in the draft, that's going to be later on in the draft, second, third, even later in the fourth round, just because running backs are so versatile that unless they're just like a standout like Ashton Genty, there's no reason to grab him in the first round. But there's a lot of O-tackle and D-tackle guys this year, like Justin was also talking about. I think the best O/D lineman out of this draft is definitely going to be probably Mason Graham from Michigan. Mason Graham is a dog. Alec, that one was for you. I know you'll be listening. So yeah, I think he's going to go anywhere from 5 to 7, which those picks are Jacksonville, Las Vegas, and the Jets. But what I've been seeing out of Las Vegas is they're likely in the need of a wide receiver, and Titeroa McMillan is probably going to be their pick. Titeroa McMillan is a dog. I think he's going to shine out well in the NFL. Hopefully he doesn't burn and crash out like Henry Ruggs did in Las Vegas. I think, like I just said a few minutes ago, Las Vegas is a death trap for NFL athletes. I think the idea of professional sports in Las Vegas is the worst idea. You give young, money-hungry, like athletes fresh out of college that want all the glitz and glam, and you bring them right into Las Vegas, the Sin City of America, and let them run wild with millions of dollars at their expense, and look what happens. Prime example one is what happened to Henry Ruggs. And I would hate to see that happen to any other future athletes, especially someone like young and talented like Titeroa McMillan coming out of Arizona. Didn't he have the single season receiving record for Arizona last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a real stud at Arizona, and I think he has a chance to be a real playmaker with a team that needs a wide receiver.
Yeah, I have seen in a lot of drafts, I've seen him going to either the Panthers, the Raiders, as you mentioned.
The Buccaneers, right?
The Buccaneers is where I really hope he ends up. I want him to be with a good quarterback.
Yeah, him and Baker could do really well together.
And, I mean, I just want him in a good situation because I don't want him to end up in a situation like even Fitz was in Arizona with no quarterbacks for years. I don't want that to happen to him. I just want him to have a decent quarterback, and the Bucs are a good team. They're a playoff team, so I would love to see him in the playoffs. But
imagine that leadership too, that he could learn and grow from Mike Evans. Who's a perennial. I mean,
he's been compared to him.
Mike Evans just hit his 12th season of 1,000 yards or more, I believe it was. And so having somebody like Mike Evans in the locker room with a young, developing rookie wide receiver who has the talent of Titeroa McMillan would be great for him. And giving him that playoff experience at such a young age, too, early on in his career will allow him to grow. I think Baker will help him elevate himself to the next level because he was playing with Noah Fifita, and, we love Noah Fifita on this podcast, but Noah Fifita is just not an NFL quarterback, in my opinion. He's he's like 5'8". Like, he's just not... I don't think he has what it takes to be in the NFL. Like, he would get murdered by the D-line from any NFL team.
Like Abdul Carter?
Abdul Carter would send Noah Fifita, like, into the hospital. It would be horrible. I mean, it would just be bad. So, yeah, like Justin was saying, getting in Titeroa McMillan into a good situation will be ideal for him.
Him and Luther Burden are some of my favorite... I mean, they're the best wide receiver prospects in this group. Emeka Bugda out of Ohio State.
Yep.
He was their all-time leading receiver now.
Yeah.
For Ohio State, which is crazy because he was never like the number one.
Which is insane considering the wide receivers they've produced.
Which is crazy. He had to be behind Marvin Harrison. He had to be behind Jeremiah Smith. He had to be behind Smith and Jigba.
And Chris Olave for a season too, I think.
It's their wide receiver room is crazy down there in Columbus, but he's gonna. I think he's gonna be a good pro. I've heard a lot of good things about him, his character, and I mean his route running is unbelievable. There's some other good ones too. Obviously, this wide receiver group isn't as deep as years prior, but I think it'll be interesting wherever T-Mac and Luther Burden end up. I think there'll be definitely high producers in terms of being rookies, depending on what team they go to.
Yeah.
In terms of the offensive linemen, I wanted to point out that the top 3 offensive linemen are all Ohio State alumni. So, I mean, obviously, being big in the trenches definitely helps you win at the highest level in college football, and we saw that with Ohio State winning their who knows how many championships they have, but they've won too many to count. Looking on the other side of the ball, the best defensive prospects, we've already touched on it a little bit. Abdul Carter, Mason Graham,
Jalen Walker.
This class has a lot of depth on the linemen, of the offensive linemen and the defensive lineman. Will Campbell, offensive lineman at LSU. I love him. I hope he goes to the Patriots so they can protect Drake May. But yeah, what do you have for the defensive prospects on the defensive line, or just looking at like linebackers, or what do you have to say about the defense?
Yeah. I think Georgia's got some dogs on the defense coming out of this class. You got Mikael Williams. I mean, Mikael Williams is a stud. He kind of reminds me of Trayvon Walker almost, I'd say. The Bulldogs have some dogs on defense, and I think
Malachi Starks.
Yeah, even Jalen Walker too. But like you mentioned, Abdul Carter's probably going to be the first defensive player to get picked,
if not the first pick.
Yeah, depending on what Tennessee decide to do. If they decide to stick it out with Mayo Man, or if they want to go with the Cam Ward. And then, maybe Mason Graham too.
Mason Graham, yeah.
Mason Graham out of Michigan. Like we mentioned earlier, Mason Graham is a hell of a defensive tackle. I think he'll add serious additions to any defensive tackle he's on, and he'll be a real threat to any of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, under the right situation, getting developed well. Also, they have another dog out of Michigan, Will Johnson, the corner. It's likely that Will Johnson is going to be, Marshawn Lattimore's replacement in a sense. And Will Johnson has the ability to... I'd say that's a fair comparison coming out of college, is comparing Will Johnson to Marshawn Lattimore. In New Orleans situation is their quarterback room's not ideal. You got Spencer Rattler and
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr.
Ugh. Rattler was not doing well.
Rattler got murdered in Green Bay, which made me happy, but too bad for sitting in that freezer all damn day. That did nothing for you, did it, buddy? Yeah, I just it's hard watching the 1 through 15 draft picks, just because they're going to such bad teams that it just does not fare well for them. I mean, Johnny Manziel turned into a cokehead in Cleveland, so yeah. What else? Like you'd mentioned, Malachi Starks is another great safety, likely to go to the Miami range, the Miami middle, 12 to 15 range for picks.
I like Tyler Warren a lot.
Yeah, he was...
In terms of favorite prospects in this draft, Tyler Warren, for me, is... I mean, I love T-Mac.
You're right.
But, it's a little biased. But
is
Genty,
yeah.
I love Genty.
Genty's a dog. Also, given that, I'm from Iowa, I'd love to see Jalen Noel do well coming out of Iowa State into the draft. I think he could be a good... not necessarily backup wide receiver, but definitely get some snaps in starting lineups and stuff like that.
What are some best fits you think for this draft? Looking at the draft order, one of my favorites, to start off for New England, I think Will Campbell would be a huge pick for them at number 4. Yeah. If not Travis Hunter, because we haven't really talked about Travis Hunter yet, but
I'm not a fan.
I mean, obviously, I don't really like Colorado and what they've done for college football, but wide receiver and cornerback is going to be obviously a big point of discussion when he's coming into the league, but I think he could be a decent slot receiver. I don't think he can be a number 1 receiver on a contending team. I think he could be a good complementary receiver. Do I think he's going to be a star worthy of a top 5 pick? I don't think so.
That's something you got to ask yourself.
I think he could be a good corner.
Yeah.
Could he be a great corner? I don't think. I think he'll be pretty decent, but he's what, 5'9", like 190.
He's a twig. And
Be a slot receiver. Be a little Wes Welker. Do a Julian Edelman impression, and then see what you can do.
I think any time that he were to line up as corner, he's going to get killed.
Him going against A.J. Brown, he would get murdered.
Him going against Justin Jefferson, him going against, like, Jamar Chase, Puka Nakua, like...
T-Mac.
T-Mac
mossed him last year.
MHJ, DK Metcalf when he's healthy. Like, I mean, he's just going to get destroyed. It's going to be bad. I think in terms of the two Colorado guys that are going to get drafted, being with Shedeur and Travis Hunter, I think Shedeur is, like, levels better at the game, at his position than Travis Hunter is at his position. I mean, I don't even think Travis Hunter should have won the Heisman. I thought it should have gone to Genty. It's only because Genty doesn't play in a Power 5 conference is why he didn't win.
Agreed.
I mean, Travis Hunter, in my opinion, is not even that good of a player.
I mean, playing both sides of the ball for as much as he did is impressive, but it's also...
Should be worrisome.
Yeah, because he would get injured each season. Both seasons that he was at Colorado, he would get injured.
Playing a full football game is horrible for your body.
No, he's not even doing that in the NFL, and it's not even a question that he's going to do that, because that's...
He'd be a good practice squad player somewhere. Like, giving the starting guys some good looks.
Oh, yeah.
But
because he can do that in practice, but...
I
think being a slot receiver, he could be really good at that if he just focuses on that.
Having Travis Hunter as a top 3 draft pick in my mind is absolutely diabolical. Given I'm not an NFL scout, clearly, but I just don't see... My experience of watching football, which has been years, I just don't see what is so appealing about Travis Hunter.
And if he goes to Cleveland or New York, he's done for.
If he goes to Cleveland, New York,
if he goes to
either New York team.
If he goes to New England, that could be pretty good.
With Drake May,
have Drake May thrown him. He's number 1 target for a little bit. But that's the only good one of the first 7 picks. Jacksonville.
With the whole Trevor Lawrence debacle, do we think Trevor Lawrence stays? Because I would say that Trevor Lawrence is better than Drake May, 100%.
But then is Trevor even going to stay? The Raiders?
Oh, God, no.
The Jets?
I wish the Raiders would have stayed in Oakland.
Agreed. Las Vegas, then Tom Brady's running it.
Yeah. Las Vegas is just a shithole, man. Sorry for the... It really is. Las Vegas is literally good for, like, 3 things. Gambling, going to live, going to concerts, any form of combat sports, and something else I won't say, but I think a lot of people can assume. Yeah, I don't know. Travis Hunter could go to, imagine Travis Hunter on, the Vikings. I would hate it, but...
That would be insane.
He could also fare well in Houston, I think. Playing with C.J. Stroud.
Oh, yeah. When did they pick?
They have the 25th pick.
Oh, he's not far.
How far do you think Travis Hunter falls if he doesn't get picked, anywhere between 1 and 3?
4.
Okay, fair enough.
Do
you think he falls out of the top 10?
There's no chance in hell.
You don't think so?
Unless he has a gas mask on his face.
Laramie Tunsil.
Oh my. Even if that happened, I still think he'd get drafted. Yeah. They'd say, he needed it for medicine or something. Because he was stressed out that he was making millions in college.
Oh, yeah.
That's real stressful.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just magically got paid millions of dollars to drive a Lamborghini Urus to practice every day. Darn me. My 2 Rolexes, oh, shit. But I've been looking heavy on this Baltimore pick. Just because I'm curious, Baltimore's got the 27th pick, and right now a lot of the mock drafts have Siobhan Ravel Jr., a cornerback from East Carolina. Isn't East Carolina an FCS school?
I think they're in the American.
Are they?
I think so, yeah. Well, there's a good Mike Green from Marshall. He's good.
Green Bay.
Really?
I don't want him in Green Bay.
No?
No.
What do you guys need? A number one receiver?
We need a number one receiver bad and
Just trade up and get T-Mac.
No,
Luther Bird.
that's not a number one wide receiver. We don't need somebody who's 21 years old. We need somebody who's like 29 and like in the middle of their prime.
That's fair.
Or somebody who's like 26. For T. Higgins, cough, would be perfect. The Packers have been linked with DK Metcalf. I'm not a fan of DK Metcalf, but when he's healthy, he's a really good wide receiver. Devontae Adams, please come back. That's all I have to ask. We've even been linked with Myles Garrett potentially. Myles Garrett and Rashawn Gary would be, it would destroy quarterbacks. I would have like a Nirvana moment if I woke up one day to see that the Packers signed Myles Garrett. But a wide receiver one is the most pressing and urgent matter coming out of Green Bay. The damn draft is in Green Bay. Like, something good has to happen for us this year. I mean, in terms of draft, like Brian Gutekunst I'm tired of these defensive players getting drafted first. I mean, they are having good players like Javon Bullard, or just some of the young guys that we have. Jair Alexander, even though Jair Alexander's probably on his way out, unfortunately, he's too much to deal with in terms of like locker room presence. He never plays. He's always got a reason not to play. We can send Christian Watson and his one ACL right off to wherever he wants to go for something. I don't like Christian Watson, but Green Bay, we got to get a number one wide receiver. It's plain and simple. Our defense was really good this year. For the first time that I've been alive, for 24 years of my life, the Packers defense actually came in clutch in the playoffs, besides when we won the Super Bowl, led by the GOAT Charles Woodson. And our offense was the problem, which is never the issue. It's always the offense is on point and the defense is the problems. Too bad half the defense got hurt against the Eagles. Keyshawn Nixon got speared on the opening kickoff, which led to a fumble that wasn't a fumble. I mean, it just... We need a wide receiver, bad. So,
yeah,
that's what it is. Not drafting any wide receivers, none of that crap. Get somebody who's a veteran in the NFL, even if it means bringing Devontae in for a couple of years. I would chomp at the bit for that. To have Devontae back home. Jordan Love's Devontae Adams sounds like a kid in a candy shop.
Yeah, one of my favorite picks in this draft could be Emeka Bugda to the Chiefs. I think that could revitalize the dynasty.
What dynasty?
It's not a dynasty anymore.
There's no dynasty. There's only one team to ever three-peat. Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts on the NFL mock draft?
I think we kind of hit all the points we wanted to talk about. I'm excited for the draft. As of now, I'm going to try to attempt to go to the draft. But if I do go to the draft, I'd probably sleep in my car because hotel rooms, Airbnbs are insane. People are wild. And in Green Bay, it's like thousands of dollars a night. It's wicked. So, little car action, never hurt anybody. Go sleep in like a truck stop. But yeah, my biggest thing is probably I hope that Cam Ward goes 1.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good fit for him. I like Abdul Carter in this draft a lot. I think he's a stud. Shout out to Penn State. Shout out to Willie Pete. But yeah, I hope T-Mac goes with a competent quarterback. We'll see him in Tampa Bay, hopefully. I'll definitely be getting a jersey. I will not be getting a Raiders jersey or a Panthers jersey. Or any of those teams he's been tied to, but we'll see what happens. Shout out to T-Mac, but the draft's in a little over 2 months, but this is our mock draft 1.0, or just not a mock draft, but it's a little discussion. So that's been the...
Yeah. Did we want to... I guess you can edit this out, but do we want to stop and then do like a little March Madness or... Okay, yeah.
I just got to research a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, also this podcast today, our episodes has been fueled by the one and only Black Barrel. got on the merch. Shout out Cheyenne and Brenda down in Eagleville, Missouri. Also, they have another store in Bethany, Missouri. So if you guys are ever on headed like anywhere north or south, headed through Des Moines, that Kansas City area, find time to stop. They're lovely ladies down there. They've got homemade, like pastries and other breakfast items, really good breakfast sandwiches, breakfast burritos, biscuits and gravy, all the assortments that one would need, plus this beautiful coffee here. As soon as our other brother here, Brock Kamali, gets back from class, we're going to do a quick Black Barrel pod where we're going to talk about our orders and just a little bit more about the history and how we all got connected. So other than that,
We'll see you next time. This has been the Brotherhood Ballad.